Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. And today we're going to be continuing Day Alive, Spirit of the Spider. What if Shido was Spider-Man 2099, Season 1, Part 2. As always, if you're new to the channel or if you're a regular and like what we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. You guys were really excited for the first part of this series, and now we're happy to get into Part 2. Where we last left off, Shido gained his powers and was able to put them into use for the first time, not only in battling against the AST, but also in rescuing and sealing the powers of the spirit known as the Princess, now renamed Toka. However, for Shido, his journeys have not come to an end, but rather they are just getting started, as there are still more spirits out there in the world that need to be saved. However, there are forces in the dark that are looking to make their move, as Shido and the AST are not the only ones hunting the spirits. But we now follow along as Shido's journey as the Spider-Man of the future continues. Without further ado, let's get into today's video, so as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. It was a rainy day for Shido as he was making his way to school. Despite the sun not being out, Shido still felt the need to wear his newly made sunshades that had been given to him by Kotori, along with the members of Rotatisker. Among many of Shido's powers, there were also some inconveniences, mainly those that came to the matter of his eyesight. Yes, his senses had been enhanced tenfold, but along with that also came the sensitivity. Shido's eyesight was far more immaculate than anything else. However, because of this, sunlight now was more of a bother than it used to be. Of course, his superhero suit that he had made for him, the spider suit, already had specially made lenses to allow him to be able to see better. But you couldn't just go around wearing a blue and red mask all day, otherwise it would defeat the whole point of a secret identity. So the sunshades were the next compromise, at least until they could make some contact lenses for him. Even with the sun not being out though, its sky still was light enough that it messed with his sight just a bit. Not too bad, but Shido was able to get used to it. However, what he didn't enjoy was the booby traps that had been laid all around his house. It was Kotori's way of continuing his training. Remember, this version of Shido, this Spider-Man in particular, Spider-Man 2099, does not actually have spider sense, nothing of the sort. He just has enhanced senses, such as sight, smell, taste, touch. You know, the typical boost to all five. You could say that they've been boosted to their absolute limits. As such, Shido has to use all of his senses in conjunction together. That way he can almost mimic what spider sense is. He just has to be more keenly aware. Using his hearing, he could hear someone cocking their gun, sometimes even miles away. So he had to train his ears that were now extremely sensitive to be able to detect what he wanted to hear and what he didn't want to hear. His sense of smell made the use of tracking individuals or certain things a lot more easier. And with eyesight, he could see far advanced, far ahead more than anyone else. Of course, this came with their own sets and difficulties, between having loud sounds blaring in the house, booby traps going off at every which moment and only being able to dodge at the last second. Shido took a couple of hits as he was getting out of the house that day, and then on top of that, he had been in such a rush, he forgot to bring an umbrella. Unfortunately, the forecast only said there was going to be a chance of rain, and unfortunately for him, it just so happened that it was indeed raining. Shido ran to a shrine, looking to get under its shelter and try to wait out the storm a bit. However, as he did so, he would run into a girl dressed in green, wearing what appeared to be a green coat and dress, along with green boots. Her hair, that was covered underneath her hoodie, a long flowing blue, as well as her eyes. And on her left hand was a hand puppet? A hand puppet of a bunny with an eye patch. Okay. Shido would have questioned it further, but he'd seen weirder things in the short period of time since all this craziness started. The girl was extremely shy and bashful, not wanting to say much to Shido, instead only continuing her run. Although Shido noticed that there were burn marks on her other free hand and on her cheek. He wondered if she was alright, but she was gone before he had a chance to ask anything. In the meantime, Toko was now readjusting to her new life. Because of her power being sealed away by Shido, she was effectively just a regular girl, and as such was now attending school like a regular girl as well. This made Shido turn into the center of attention, not only for Toka, but already for Origami. The two girls making no shy remarks about the fact that they were both vying for his attention to the highest degree. From both of them trying to give them lunch at the same time to both of them baking cookies. Safe to say, Shido was receiving a lot more female attention than even he was expecting. All that mattered though, when he got called in a few days later, when a spatial quake was starting to occur, he would head to Fraxinus, meeting with Kotori and the other members of Ratasker, leaving Toka behind in the spatial quake shelter zone, since without her powers, she effectively was no stronger or more powerful than the average teenage girl. As Shido would be briefed by Kotori on what was happening, he would see on screen who they were looking for. To everyone's surprise, Shido would recount that he had met the girl just a few days prior, this girl being classified as the Hermit, another spirit. Of course, Shido had recently learned that Toka was not the only spirit that they had to worry about. There were countless amounts of them. Of course, on one hand, it was a daunting task, the idea of actually being able to seal and save every single spirit. But at the same time, he watched as the AST were hunting the girl down viciously, aiming to kill. It caused Shido's blood to boil just a bit. The girl was clearly just trying to retreat. She wasn't even looking for a fight. And yet they were hounding her without any let-up. Kotori would warn that he shouldn't let his emotions get in the way of his clear thinking, reminding him that no matter what they looked like, even if it were just a baby, if it detected spirit energy, then the AST were tasked with one job: to eliminate it by any means necessary. As such, Shido would suit up, getting himself ready for action. As Fraxinus would descend over the battle zone, Shido would jump out immediately, gliding down to the area below. The fighting had now drawn out into an abandoned mall, and Shido would begin looking inside. A member of the AST would recount seeing the masked vigilante that they had now classified as Spider-Man making his way inside. This was the second time that the Spider-Man was getting involved with a spirit. The AST weren't sure of what to do with him. I mean, on one hand, he didn't register for spirit energy, although there were residuals. At the same time, they didn't know what to make of it. Was he friend or foe? However, Origami had already come to the conclusion. If he was aiding and abetting the spirits, then he was an enemy, and they'd have to treat him as such. However, inside of a facility, a well-dressed man made his way down the halls, along with his subordinate. Mr. Prescott? I know, the hermit's gotten away. It doesn't matter. I feel like this could be an opportunity. We've been learning a lot of new things recently. Do you have any more news about our spider? Nothing of late. However, we do believe he's recently made contact with the hermit. Is that so? Well, I have a theory I'd like to try. Is the subject ready? Subject 1965. The Molten Man? Yes, I would like to use him again. It's amusing when he goes up against the hermit. I'd like to see what our spider can do. Very well, we will have him released at once. What's his objective? Capture or destroy. Bring them in dead or alive. Makes no difference. Understood, sir. As Shido made his way through the mall, he would eventually find where the young girl was. However, she would not be the one speaking to him, but rather, Hey there, stranger. Gotta say, I like the fancy duds. Thanks. And you are? My name's Yoshinon! It's so nice to meet you. However, I must warn, I will not be easily swayed by your silver tongue. So tread lightly when you speak to me. Okay, nice to meet you, Yoshinon. So, do you both share the same name? Shido would get an earful from Kotori as she and the members of her tasker would go over the various scenarios and the likeliest answers to various questions. This wasn't just superhero work, this was also trying to score a date of sorts. Yeah, this job was a lot more complicated than Shido would have given it credit. Of course, the timid girl was slow to speech, as she was very shy and nervous about everyone and everything around her. She just didn't want to be hunted anymore. She didn't want to face him. What are you talking about? Who's him? He's a very mean man. Is he the person that left the burn marks? She would nod her head. Look, if you come with me, I promise everything's going to be alright. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you. Oh, so you're going to be our new hero? You could say that. At least I want to be. Hooray! Quick, Yoshino, I think this might be the one. Are you sure? I mean, look at him. He's straight out of a comic book. He's obviously the hero. He's probably like an anti-hero, the lone wolf, or lone spider, so to speak. He's gonna be the one who's going to save us. We have to take this opportunity. And plus, this is the chance for you to score yourself a superhero hunk. A superhero hunk? Oh, come on. You all know the story. The daring hero, the damsel in distress, the fight between good and evil. And after saving the day, you get to have a super smooch. Well, that's one way of putting it, Shido would think. However, they didn't have much time, as a loud gargling voice could be heard. Yoshino would quickly become afraid. Shido standing on guard as Kotori would yell for the both of them to get out of there. Something had arrived. Off in another bay of Fraxinus, Madame Webb, as she rested, could feel a disturbance. Oh my God. Prescott, what have you done? Alright, we need to get out of here as soon as possible. There's something, I don't know what, but it's coming right. Before Shido could finish, the doors to the inside of the abandoned mall would begin to burn open. The AST would now jump in to finally put a stop to it, but what they saw was even frightening for them. A strange amalgamation between molten lava and man that seemed to absorb and take into himself everything that stepped in or was crawling upon. Yoshino would cower in fear as the monstrosity set its sights towards her and Shido. "You've been a very bad girl, hermit. Who told you you could leave?" Yoshino would begin to manifest her power over ice, as it would now clash against Molten Man's molten lava. The two attacks colliding and causing a massive explosion as she tried to get away. Shido would now stand in between the two of them. He used his webbing to try to bind and hold him to little to no effect, before finally grabbing whatever furniture or debris he could muster and slamming it directly into the Molten Man's head. "You guys need to run. Get out of here, I'll buy you time." "And who the hell are you?" "It doesn't matter. What does matter is what you're trying to do. Why are you after her?" "She belongs to my master. She is his property. She doesn't belong to anyone. She's not even trying to fight, and yet you're trying to harm her. It makes no difference. It's because of her that I got stuck like this. So any chance I get to take it out on that damn little witch, I'm gonna do it. We'll see about that." Kotori and the other members of her tasker would watch on as Shido battled against the Molten Man, the AST joining in also. While they were trying to capture and terminate the Hermit, this new molten creature was also their priority as well. It was giving off massive amounts of spiritual energy, the same as any spirit, but it wasn't a spirit. It was some type of mutant, something just otherworldly. As Shido would battle against it, Kotori would feed him information. In the midst of the fighting, Yoshino had lost Yoshinan, that was now lying in the middle of the rubble and the debris and chaos. It caused her to awaken into her angel form, a monstrous frozen beast. And as Molten Man grew in size, the two titans would now begin to clash, with neither one backing down even for an instant. "It's probably because she lost Yoshinan," Shido would think. He had to get the puppet and bring it back to her to calm her down. Toka, who couldn't wait any longer, had now joined the fray. Seeing what was happening, she desperately wanted to help any way that she could. In that form of her desperation, her spirit power would finally start to awaken. Not much, but just a bit. Enough for her to fly and to summon her sword. The moment she was able to do so, she would cut off one of Molten Man's arms. As he regrew it back, he would begin attacking at Toka, who was also battling against him, along with members of the AST and Shido. Everyone in a free-for-all frenzy, trying their best to get everything under control and to stop the chaos from spreading and getting even worse. As Shido had managed to grab Yoshinan, he would find Yoshino. Of course, the girl was at a loss, feeling as though she had lost her best friend. However, once Shido got Yoshinan back to Yoshino, she was relieved. She had seen that Shido indeed cared about her. Her power began to subside, and she started to return to normal. As she did so, Shido would ask her if he could kiss her. Of course, this was probably not the best of times, but they had to get that power under control. Yoshino would agree. and after receiving the kiss, her spirit power would be sealed away, making her ordinary and untrackable. As Shido took the power into itself, and Toka would now regroup with Shido. Shido would tell Toka to take Yoshino and to get out of there. Taking him at his word, she would tell him to be careful as she left. And now Shido was left only with the molten man. Thankfully, Ratasker was on the scene, as Shido would be gifted some much needed aid, that being in the form of targeting its weak spot. They had thankfully been able to come up with some countermeasures for dealing with the molten man. Among many things, Fraxinus had a lot of weapons on standby, since you never knew what type of problem or situation you were going to run into. They set down a couple of grenades. These were freeze grenades, made specifically to encase any foe in ice. Once Shido had the grenades that he needed, he would then shoot them inside of the molten man, shooting them at various points and areas, before finally dumping the last of the payload into the monster's head. Afterwards, he would use his webs, reinforcing them as best he could, creating a trap of sorts. It wasn't going to stop him, but it would slow him down, long enough for the grenades to get deep inside of his system, and then to take effect. In the midst of the explosion that would occur, the members of the AST, along with Origami and others, would find themselves being pushed back. However, Shido, seeing Origami and seeing that she was close to being impaled by rebar, would immediately jump through from rooftop to rooftop, avoiding the various large amounts of rubble and debris that were flying in the air, before eventually using his webs to pulling her to safety, before she could be impaled. As he had let her down, Origami would look up to him. Despite wearing a mask, she felt something familiar about him, almost like she knew him. Why did you save me? You were helping the spirit. Why can't I help both? You need to get here and relax. I'm going to take care of that thing. Before Origami could object, Shido was already gone. The grenades now starting to take effect, they would begin to explode one by one, as the molten man was now starting to shrink, before finally being encased in ice. Finally being unable to move, Ratasker would send in a strike team, being able to capture the creature and bring it into custody. For the most part, there wasn't any too much way in terms of damage, save for an abandoned mall that finally got destroyed. So you could say that the demolition company got their money saved, didn't have to waste any time on equipment. However, for Shido, there were still so many things that he didn't know. For one, what was this molten monster of sorts? And why was Kotori so worried about it? In the end of the day, they had managed to seal away Yoshino's power, so that was one more spirit saved. And the new housing complex for the spirits and for Shido and Kotori had already been constructed. So in his mind, he felt like it was a win. However, they were brought in to Madame Web's chamber, where a lot more needed to be discussed. You guys seem really worried. I mean, isn't this a good thing? We defeated the bad guy, we saved the day, saved the spirit. It's not that simple, Shido. This molten man or whatever, it's not just any mutant. Shido would look to Kotori as Madame Web would now speak. This is the result of spiritual corruption. Spiritual corruption? Yes. As you're aware, Shido, you have the ability to seal spirit power. However, you must know that sealing that power must be done with consent. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't want to go around just kissing girls that don't want to be kissed. It's not just that, dummy, Kotori would say. There's a price you pay when you try to take a spirit's power, and she's not going to give it willingly. Once you begin the process of trying to forcefully take a spirit's power, it goes one of two ways. You're either strong enough to seal it, or you're not. And what happens when you're not? When you're not strong enough to seal it, that's what happens to you. You turn into a force of nature, a creature that can't be stopped or contained. That thing, the pressure it's giving off, we traced its spiritual energy all the way back to Yoshino. I see. So you're saying this thing, it tried to take Yoshino's power, but it wasn't strong enough. And when it wasn't able to take it over, its DNA got corrupted. Exactly. That's the problem. If this thing exists, then it means that there's someone or something out there that's trying to take away the power of the spirits. Not just sealing them, but trying to take them into themselves. Like you. Like me. Yes, but much worse, I am afraid, Madame Webb would say. I only know of one person who dabbled in such heinous actions. I had believed he had been dead a long time ago, but for this thing to exist, then it means he is alive. Who? Madame Webb would sigh deeply. His name was Prescott. When he was young, such as yourself, Shido, I had turned to him for help. To help me seal away the spirit's powers, to save the spirits. However, he became mad with power. He tried to take them all into himself, and there was one in particular that he wanted. However, when he tried to take her power, it killed him. It tore him apart and destroyed him. I had believed that had been the end of it, that had been his fate. But I am afraid, if this being is able to exist, then either someone is continuing his research, or somehow he has returned. This concludes Data Live, Spirit of the Spire. What if Shido was Spider-Man 2099, Season 1, Part 2. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned for tomorrow's videos as we're going to be doing a double upload day as we will be doing parts 9 and 10 of Kill la Kill, The Web of Life. What if Spider-Gwen was in Kill la Kill, parts 9 and 10, and that will be the wrap up to that series. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.